All right, well, Canada's no-fly list is meant to keep air travelers safe, but there are growing calls for better transparency about who ends up on that list and why. Right now, there are 62 kids, on the no-fly list in Canada. They range in age from 19 years old to just 1 year old. Joining us now are two moms whose kids are on that list. Khadija Ahmed joins me in studio, and Heather Harder is joining us from our London studio. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Khadija, let's start with you. How did you find out that your son was on this no-fly list?
When he was 18 months old, a check-in agent at the airport told us that he was flagged.
And you didn't know until you were ready to get on the plane?
We didn't know until she told us. I mean, we had a suspicion before because he was flagged when he was born, when he was 6 weeks old, but we had confirmation when she told that to us.
And then what could you do at that point?
We contacted our MP at the time for advice, and he suggested contacting public safety, and which we did. But at the time, they said there was nothing they could do.
And so here's a shot of your son here.
Yeah.
What's his response, knowing that right now he's on this special list of people not allowed to get on planes without permission?
So he's only 7. He doesn't really understand what it means. And he heard about it mostly from his friends at school because they saw him in the paper.
Right.
But I mean, there's not much we can say to rationalize it to a 7-year-old, right?
Well, and he's just 7 now, but he is going to continue to get older. And right now, Heather, you know this too, there's no really end in sight for when this will end.
No, I mean, we were hopeful that it would be included in the budget of the federal government this year, but it wasn't. So that doesn't mean we won't stop.
Of course, you want to keep trying. Tell us your story, Heather. How did you find out that you had a child on the no-fly list?
Sebastian's 3 right now, but our first flight with him was when he was 6 weeks old. And I actually am originally from Saskatoon. Mm-hmm. And so we were flying back to visit family. And each flight we were stopped, but we were given reasons like clerical booking error that was our fault. And it wasn't until he was 18 months old that a service agent told us that we were being flagged, that his name was being flagged on the no-fly list.
You must have been so shocked, Heather, and then to find out that there's really no way of actually knowing unless somebody is willing to tell you that information. There's no letter that comes. There's no special documentation. You just find out when you get there.
Right, yeah, and it actually was just this sympathetic agent who we believe wasn't actually supposed to say to us that that was the real reason.
Khadija, what steps have you taken to try and get your son's name removed from the no-fly list?
So we have, like I said, contacted public safety. Since the change in government about 18 months ago, we've had a little bit more involvement with the new public safety minister, who has taken a keen interest in this file and has worked with us quite diligently. I mean, we were very disappointed that it wasn't included in the budget last week, but we continue to advocate for the kids and work with public safety.
And a reminder, it's 62 kids. You know, we did reach out to Minister Ralph Goodale's office for a statement on their efforts surrounding the issue of kids on the no-fly list. This is their response. We appreciate the frustration of travelers whose names are wrongfully flagged by air travel security lists, and we want to reassure them that work on long-term improvements to the system continues. Your response to that, Heather?
You know, I have good faith that they are trying. We are worried, though, about the older children that are on the list. For example, Mike Pierre, he's soon to be 18. You can imagine when you're a young child, it's a little bit easier to identify that this isn't the person that is on the list. But as you reach adulthood, it's less easy. And there have been stories from other families with older children who have been stopped, passports confiscated, interrogated. So it's frightening, and it's not something that these children should be experiencing.
You know, one of the arguments that comes up around this issue, Heather, is, you know, your son is still very young. Why not just change his name and get him off the list?
Right. That doesn't solve the issue.
Absolutely.
That solves the issue for Sebastian, possibly, unless we choose a different name that's also on the list.
What response have either of you had? Khadija, I'll start with you. When, you know, obviously your children are too young to be on this list. So why can't they just remove their name or attach a number or something that says, this is not the child we're concerned about. This is not the person we're concerned with.
So this is what we are asking for, is we're asking for the government to implement a redress system, so a system whereby people who are falsely attached to this list have a mechanism to get themselves off this list. It doesn't exist currently in Canada.
Well, they would argue that they've set up this office, a policy office, where you can go and check in with. What's been your experience dealing with the office?
I mean, it's just, in our experience, it's just an office in name. Really, no redress has been available to us through this office.
When you speak with people there, what do they tell you?
We have never been able to speak to anybody at that office. I mean, our communication is directly with the Minister of Public Safety's office, the staff in his office. It's not with the PPIO's office.
All right, what are your plans? Heather, I'll end with you. What are your plans going forward?
We're going to continue to work with the government and raising public awareness. One of the things that surprises me, because we have been telling our story for over a year now, is that people still don't know that this is happening. Particularly in Canada, people believe that this is an issue in the States, but the States has a redress system and Canada doesn't. So we're a little behind on that.
And Khadija, what are your plans going forward?
Well, the same. I mean, Heather and I have been working together with a few other families, and so our intention is to continue to advocate on behalf of all these children and hopefully have this mechanism put in place.
I just have one last question for you. As a mom, when you're getting ready, let's say March break is coming up, or you've got holidays where you want to travel, what kind of planning do you now go through?
We have to, we have to put in that extra time at the airport, right? Like, we just never know what's going to happen. We never know how long it's going to take. It's not just a matter of checking in online, which is something we always used to be able to do.
Right.
We have to just factor in that extra time, and it's very unpredictable.
Well, I'm glad that your son has such good humor about it now, but I imagine that's going to start to wane in the years to come, and hopefully it doesn't take that long.
I hope not. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather and Khadija, both for telling your stories, and hopefully we will have good follow-up on this story coming up. If you'd like some more information on the no-fly list, you'll find that at our website, yourmorning.ca.